Writing and copy prompting VSL scripts is not about problem, agitate, solve anymore. That's what junior copywriters learn. And that's also from what I would call a bygone era. You have to upgrade your strategy and understand why you're writing your VSL openings and your VSLs positioned the way that you are so that you can get maximum self identification, dopamine, attention. Let's break it down. So, first of all, this system is called ACT. This is the ACT method. I'm going to drop this chat GPT link in the description below. And ACT is attention, connection, transformation. And just like problem, agitate, solve, it has a reason for existing in that structure. And it's all about neurotransmitter, brain chemicals, and how we need to get more events on Cappy and more watch time on YouTube and more watch time everywhere. But YouTube watch time is such a critical metric to defining and expanding your TAM, your total addressable market. So when you write your VSL openings above and beyond positioning, which I'll do a video here on YouTube for positioning and how to get from copy prompting to positioning prompting, which is all under the umbrella of copy prompting, but positioning prompting is after you have trained your AI in context. Once you have the right, and it's not about prompt sequences, it's about context, collaborating with AI so it understands everything deeper than you. If you're aware of it, it needs to be more aware of it. Otherwise, you will not get the type of effective VSL copy that you really want out of AI. So attention is the hook. Positioning is the hook. A hook isn't, what does this camel have to do with your bitches? That's just an old school direct response, clickbankish style hook. The hook these days is about self-identification, getting people to mirror neuron, self-identify with your copy. Back 10 years ago on Meta, it was not okay to write self-identifying copy. I'm a 46-year-old man. They wanted inclusive copy. They wanted stuff that was relevant to everybody in some way, shape, or form. They wanted to create a positive user experience. I created a video during the pandemic. Facebook's gone positive. And if you didn't understand how to leverage the positive metric on Facebook, you were having a difficult time getting your ads to work. There's still some relevance in that, but very little in comparison to before, to how it used to be. So the fact that we can run self-identifying, and same with YouTube, and TikTok is absolutely spearheading it. TikTok has single-handedly changed advertising in ways that other platforms did not for the entirety of their existence, the way that TikTok has in its very short one. So the connection aspect is doing something with that initial attention. How are you going to tell a story, your story, someone else's story, to create vulnerability, to allow connection to occur? That's so key. And everything is storytelling. This product right here, this is something that we're going to create some copy around, some VSL copy. But before we get there, let's just kind of understand what storytelling is within the context of the ACT method, getting more higher viewership so that you can train pixels, copy to get more relevant eyes in front of your offers and convert higher. Get more out of your copy, not just write killer copy, an amazing VSL copy, but the copy that A, you can have multiple openings that are all scaling, and B, that you're able to build an offer off of. So you have the body, the main part of the VSL, and then all of the different openings that get different archetypes, different people telling different stories about the same problem to all raise their hands going back to the A. So who you're asking to raise their hand, you need to be aware of. AI needs to be aware of. Otherwise, you will not get the VSL copy that you are after. That is going to convert and be scalable and have multiple openings that all make the same VSL body work, be effective, so that you're having a multitude of VSLs all defined by different openings and positioning, right? So it's all defined by positioning, and then the different UX that are different ways of speaking that positioning for the different archetypes of different people telling different stories about the problem you can help everybody solve. And then the mechanism, the how, right? Todd Brown is advertising a lot about mechanism, but mechanism alone now, not enough. You need deeper core. You need that reason why everything else didn't work, new cause, in order to fully help people suspend their disbelief. And then the personal story that makes an offer more than just an offer, but as AI says, a lived experience. And then the transformation aspect, that's all about future pacing, which is dopamine. And here we're getting into oxytocin being triggered in the connection aspect. But attention, dopamine, cortisol. Problem agitates all. Problem is all about cortisol. Cortisol triggers the amygdala, the flight or fight response, the sympathetic nervous system running away from the tiger. So when you see it, you feel like you need to be hyper vigilant to watch it. That's it's tapping into the most lizard parts of the human brain. This is balancing the neurotransmitters, the brain chemicals that we are triggering in order to have a better user experience. Because now just scaring people also triggers red flags and immediately creates that heuristic automatic association that you are full of it, that your offer is BS. So having clarity on not just on knowing that you're not just triggering cortisol, but you can also in the attention part, by the way, it says just dopamine, cortisol. You could do dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, right? There's different ways that you can get people's attention. In the reality, it's not as templated as that. There's a lot more wiggle room. The oxytocin is that touch. We all need touch, but advertising copy can create it when you really get that self-identification. And for me, the connection aspect is vulnerability. How to tell stories in a way that makes people feel even more seen because they're taking that self-identification and they're going on their own hero's journey in their mind as they're listening to yours. That's an effective way of producing connection, just like Forrest Gump did it. Just like, different movies, there's that his character Forrest Gump is such a perfect example of vulnerability and how that vulnerability draws you in. That movie conveyed more information than a lot of Tony Robbins self-help weekend seminars. And then the dopamine and endorphins, I would and by the way, the serotonin is that middle cow. It's I'm the safest, I'm the most protected. So copy can do a lot of things. And it's this again is beyond what junior copywriters or some senior copywriters still, really hold on to the PAS, the problem, agitate, solve. But we're so beyond that. And I explained also the heuristic automatic association that people feel when they see gaslighting type advertising that's meant to scare them if it works. If it doesn't work, it's just like, man, what are you doing? Come on. You're better than that. Okay. So this is all about watch time, right? We have to have watch time in order for the platforms to serve us to more of the right eyes. And that watch time is also what determines who those right eyes are, because the wrong people are not going to get in 15 plus seconds. So when we help the platforms define our TAM and expand our TAM, and then we get more people beyond that 15-second mark with killer copy, no, with effective copy, then our VSLs have the opportunity of being way more effective faster. And you can have VSLs that you give time to run on YouTube Meta without necessarily adhering to this and can still perform. If you have the ad budget to just let them run for weeks, and then all of a sudden they kick in, and for a lot of people, they're going to shut down just thinking they're throwing money away, flushing money down the toilet. So understanding how to get people deeper into your VSL, because the beginning is the most important part of the VSL. If you can't get people past the beginning, the rest of it doesn't matter. And it doesn't even matter how long it is because people ain't going to get there. Whether it's 2 minutes or 20 minutes or 40 minutes, doesn't matter. And Meta, they're all about Cappy, all about events. So making sure that you have all the right events in your account, on your website coded correctly with a tech stack that works, because you can lose a lot of sales, get that a little bit wrong. But again, it helps address get the total addressable market defined. And that's huge for making your ad dollars work. Or if you're a copywriter, getting your clients' ad dollars to work so the copy you produce does work. So also understanding the difference in platforms in terms of user experience from the user perspective. On Facebook, what am I doing? I'm opening my phone. I open the app. I look at my notifications. Who looked at my story? Okay, interesting. And then it's just predominantly scrolling. And then what catches your eye, right? And if the ad catches your eye, then it needs to get you to what? Self-identify, because that's going to get the most neurochemicals going, neurotransmitters firing. And then what? Then you need to create that oxytocin, serotonin, that feeling that you're in the right place. You're exactly where you need to be. And that's what those neurochemicals do when they are also regulated with other chemicals like dopamine and even cortisol. And then also different biases and identity biases, archetypal biases. There's lots that we can put into these openings. Okay. So now we're going to get into some specificity. I need you to look up Nello Super Greens. Tell me about the ingredients and specifically what are the mechanisms of these ingredients? What do you consider to be the hero ingredients? And what would be, in your opinion, the most specific positioning points that we would want to use from a cold traffic standpoint? So you'll have this thread in the description, but you'll see I just kind of built it up to give context to what we're about to produce. Now, you want to make sure and lock in the ACT method into your chat GPT or in your thread on whatever AI chatbot you're using, so that I'm using chat GPT because I can train the account. I can have it all locked in and I can create assets for days. And if I need to, I can go over here to Claude. But for right now, I'm just using chat GPT. It's easy and I can leverage it in other chatbots, Perplexity as well. Okay, so we're getting information on what this is. Awesome. The hero ingredients from its perspective. I'm not sure if I agree. I see we have 3 probiotics, and I'm just starting to use this. So you're watching me, because I've used their other here, and I know quite a bit about them, but I don't know much about this one. So I need to copy prompt before I can thoroughly position prompt. And then we can get into the VSL copy. And that way we have a trained account so that I can write VSL copy for this tutorial copy, landing page, whatever, all day long. All right. So mechanism. Yep. Okay. Let's take the greens, for instance, the moringa, the chlorella. What about that chlorophyll, which is the blood of plants, helps oxygenate the blood? Our blood is not, even when we have high oxygenation, like 99% oxygenation, our red blood cells, for instance, can rurulate, they can stick together. And a lack of oxygen in the plasma, in the blood, is a perfect environment for disease to occur. Now, I can't talk about disease in my supplement copy or even mention the word disease, but what does this do for oxygenation? How is this also from an inflammatory aging perspective, helping with aging, with energy, blood sugar? I can see a lot of things that would help with blood sugar. Our probiotics might help with blood sugar. I don't know much about these 3 specific probiotics in the probiotic blend. Could you break down what these probiotics are? If they help with the gut lining specifically to help prevent sugar from spiking the blood in the first place? I'm looking for more specific positioning points and ways of talking about this product in more relevant positioning. All right. So again, I'm using ChatGPT AI to collaborate, to go back and forth, not just tell it what to do, but to work with it, to build off of what it says, and it builds off of what I say, just like any healthy relationship in the workplace. Okay. Similar to the hemoglobin, the part of red blood cells that carries oxygen, not the plasma. Similar doesn't mean chlorophyll becomes hemoglobin, but it mimics it in some actions. Okay. So by mimicking the hemoglobin in human blood, are we helping potentially increase oxygenation levels? And while it's doing that, let's continue to look at what it said here. Basic stuff. Okay, then we're getting into tight junction mucin production, where leaky gut begins. Better metabolite with insulin, protecting some sort of glucose. Okay, well, there is some evidence that we could use that positioning for sure. Gut barrier helps maintain gut lining, supports balance. Okay, so now we're getting an idea off of potential more relevant positioning points, and positioning points that have high awareness, like leaky gut. If we wanted to do bottom of funnel, top of funnel, first lines of a VSL for leaky gut, and be like, this is my leaky gut solution, instead of what is leaky gut? How does leaky gut happen? Do you have leaky gut? Have you heard? It doesn't. We're hitting people that are aware of. So when you're thinking about your VSL, and most copywriters and business owners approach it from a pure top of funnel perspective and do not integrate bottom of funnel stuff at the top of funnel. But with products like this, there's lots of top of funnel, low hanging fruit prospects that are looking for the best solutions for leaky gut or are looking for the best solutions for high blood sugar. And they know about the gut and know that helping fortify the gut is going to help prevent spiking of their blood sugar. So there's lots of different things that we can do with that. Okay. So, from a positioning point standpoint, high blood sugar, we have the deeper core of helping refortify the epithelial lining mucin layer of the gut. So, we're addressing where high blood sugar spikes come from. And then the other ingredients need to be positioned to support that, and both in terms of the antioxidants and the anti-inflammation and whatever else that we're going to be able to talk about from that perspective of what is going to also help with the gut ecosystem, the production of happy hormones, potential ingredients that are going to curb appetite and cravings, things of that nature. So help break that down for me, and then we're going to start with some opening line copy for that positioning point. So we can get multiple positioning points out of this, right? We can go energy, weight loss, energy, aging, weight loss. Um, different combinations are just one thing. But because direct response is supposed to be one thing, well, the deeper core would be in this case the leaky gut. So, and this being such a good whole food for the microbiome as a whole. That's my sense. Okay. And the supportive ingredients encourage mucin production. One of the things I want to say, when we encourage mucin production, it creates food for Akkermansia, the keystone bacteria in the mucosal lining. Do any of these ingredients also help with the production of Akkermansia, have natural Akkermansia benefits? Anything that we can do to talk about how we are not just fortifying the gut lining, but creating food for bacteria that, like, say, for instance, are required to be skinny. So if you're overweight or obese and you don't have food for Akkermansia, it's literally impossible to sustainably lose weight for a lot of people. Break that down. And as you can see, continuing to copy prompt, position prompt all along and constantly creating more collaborative context for AI to draw from, to produce not just amazing openings, but then the bodies that are going to actually convert. Okay. So there's definitely lots of supporting co-stars here, supporting actors that are going to help with the other aspects of the conversation, as I suspected and hoped. I would need to do more specific research, and get the citations and all of that. Could use Perplexity in combination, but for right now, for the sake of this conversation, we will not do that. But yes, that does need to be done if you're wondering. So we have indirect Akkermansia boosters, not the primary food. Okay. So that's not looking like that's going to be a possibility. Or maybe it is. There is some possibility in it, but I would not go for that level of specificity just with the overall microbiome. So without mucin, and a lot of these ingredients from what I'm seeing can help with the mucin production, that's what Akkermansia needs now for food and to exist in the gut. Now, none of these ingredients directly help with Akkermansia, so we are not using Akkermansia positioning or even talking about Akkermansia about this product. We're simply saying that we're rebuilding the mucosal lining so that you can lose weight, so that you can help prevent sugar spikes literally where they begin. So lock that in, and then let's look at some opening lines for our VSLs that are really going after people who are overweight or close to obese or obese. If your blood sugar spikes, no matter how clean you eat, the real problem isn't carbs. It's a thin gut lining that's supposed to act like a filter. When that lining breaks down, sugar floods your blood and body stores it as fat. Okay. So now we have a reason for high A1C glucose numbers. We have a reason for why we gain weight and why we can't lose weight. So there's a lot right there that's effective. Now, I want to make sure that this is hitting in the ACT method, the attention self-identification element hard from these same angles. Let's make sure and integrate the A in the attention aspect of ACT. Let me see what those look like. Specificity, collaboration, context training, specificity training, you understanding what you're talking about. So whatever 80% you need in order to copy prompt at this level is imperative to be both compliant, effective, successful, and helping the most people. So that first line, if you've been overweight for years and every diet fails the same way, it's not because you can't stick with it. It's because your gut lining is thin and every meal is spiking your blood sugar before you even know it. If you're carrying extra weight and feel like nothing works no matter how hard you try, you're right. Confirmed bias. It's not working because without a strong mucin layer in your gut deep in the core, your body turns every bite into stored fat. Consequence. And that leads to the connection ability. Energy in crash. Okay, so you guys can read that. Okay, so now we have the first part. Let's see. Why am I typing? Okay, let's see the C, the connection, and the T, the transformation, using the 5 same angles with demonstrative examples for each. How do you think it tastes? It's actually delicious. Stevia, monk fruit. You don't taste the stevia. I don't like stevia, so the fact that I cannot taste it, it's very well balanced. And these other ones, they make amazing mocktails, and there's like all kinds of different flavors. I have all the different flavors. So there's lots of different ways, that you can talk about it, and this works for coaching offers, dating offers, financial offers, any offer. This is just an example of it, and we can do more. Okay. If you've been overweight for years and every diet fails the same way, it's not because you can't stick with it. It's because your gut lining is thin and every meal is spiking your blood sugar before you even know it, storing it away as fat. I know how exhausting that cycle feels. You start strong, you follow the rules, the weight barely moves. And then the weight barely moves. It's not laziness. It's biology fighting you because right. Okay, so this is good, but it's not like strong over the. So here's what I want to make sure that we're hitting the self identification hard and also, there's an aspect of when we have a lack of mucin, leaky gut, it's typically indicative that we have dysbiosis as well. And the bad bacteria candida literally brainwash us as craving sugar, eating sugar, carbs. That could be integrated into one aspect. I have been struggling with my diet because of leaky gut, because of autoimmune issues and my ability to exercise. So I want to make sure to also be able to potentially integrate story, draw from my previous prompts about me that could potentially integrated into the connection, what is going to create the most empathy and connection. And then for that transformation, it's not about making huge claims. So you're good with that. You're not making weight loss claims, which we can't and shouldn't do unless, I can actually show people exactly what was before and exactly what is after in truth, authenticity, and reality. How can we amp up the emotion in that transformation to really get the dopamine going? If you start Monday with a diet plan and by Wednesday you're face down in a snack drawer, right? So different ways of approaching that first line and creating that self-identification. Now, let's say this was for TikTok, just for shits and giggles. Let's just shift gears going from Meta YouTube to TikTok. What would these opening lines with all that's been prompted before look like in the ACT method? If you're overweight and every diet fails, it's not you. It's not your fault. It's your new cause. It's your gut lining leaking sugar into your blood, deeper core. Okay. I used to blame myself until I found a weak mucin layer makes every meal a sugar bomb. Okay, now we have empathy, connection. When I rebuilt that lining, I was able to start controlling my cravings, and the dieting that I was doing started having effects. The exercise I was doing started showing results. Changes up that last one. So we can see different first lines and ways of executing the ACT method as a whole. Now, what are different archetypes of people who are overweight dealing with high blood sugar? Let's break those down because we want to start getting more specific about the identity that we're asking to identify. Does that make sense? Diet veteran, tired parent, silent sufferer, overworked professional, gym frustrated, great, emotional eater, love it, aging body, great. Let's just go with number 6. Okay, so going with number 6, let me see 5 different versions of the ACT method executed. And I didn't actually specify whether it be for TikTok or Meta. Actually, hold on. If you feel like you're addicted to sugar, like it calls your name, even when you're full, that's not you being weak. When your gut lining breaks down, bad bacteria take over. They literally brainwash your cravings, making you reach for sugar even when you don't want it. And now that can build the connection empathy, but it's too much you. It should be from my perspective, how I felt. I thought I was just emotional eating, but it wasn't just in my head. My gut was leaking sugar into my blood, and the bad microbes were pushing me to crave more. I can do something with that. There's a lot of potential there. Once the gut lining is rebuilt, the cravings calm down. I can walk past the pantry and feel peace instead of war inside of my head and those bad bacteria begging me to feed them. Right. So there's a lot of VSL potential there. show me now a full, without breaking it down with the different versions, going after this same archetype. Show me a complete VSL and show where the act method ends and the body of the VSL begins, right? So you want to have control over how you test. So you can have your opening line, but then you can also define your lead. And so I'm actually, by doing this, having it define the lead so that I know where I am putting the rest of the copy, the body, what it's being built on top of. Okay. And now I didn't give it any specificity for how I wanted it to utilize any particular heuristic elements, and I can do that. I want to make sure and talk about how frustrating it is when you so badly want to lose weight that cravings won't leave you alone. When I was at my worst, I would make it through the day most times without overeating or eating sugar. But then 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock comes around, 11 p.m. comes around, and I'm stuffing my face, grazing on everything that I can get my hands on, whether it's cake, cookies, crackers, chip, bread with butter, just lathered in butter. So I've really struggled with my cravings. And I didn't know that it was the non-human intelligence, my aliens living in my gut, that were literally brainwashing me so that they can have their fuel, sugar, carbs, sugar. And from the gut perspective of, now I understand why I looked so bloated and so overweight, even when I hardly ate anything and was doing well during the day dieting, just having a little bit of food, I would just bloat right up. That's the bad bacteria. And that's what this product is dealing with at the core, and creating an environment that is conducive to a healthy gut lining, and slowly only leaching the right amount of sugar into my bloodstream that my brain can use now, that my body can use now without storing it as fat. And leave that, and let's see how you regenerate the VSL. Let's make sure also, I want you to kind of show us the different heuristic elements you're using, kind of element it out, and then I'll prompt you for a version of it without those. So the ACT method is more one line each. It's meant to get people to the 15 or past the 15-second mark. So let's make sure not over exaggerate it. Redo it with that in mind. So now we have copy that I can see we can do something with. But I want to make sure and add more of my authenticity, my voice, and my edge. I'm brash, but I'm real. So I want to make sure that people get that, and also that I do deep research when I'm trying to solve a problem that has been ongoing for a long time, to finally get to the true deeper core, the real reason why this is happening, and how I discovered Super Greens by Nello, and why these ingredients help me, not the product, but why these ingredients have helped me, and any clinical backings. Okay, so if you ever stood in the kitchen at 11 p.m. promising yourself you'll just have one bite of something sweet, only to come back to consciousness 20 minutes later after being surrounded by empty wrappers, crumbs on your shirt, and that familiar wave of self-hatred washing over you, what you just experienced wasn't a lack of willpower. That's good. It's wordy and we can fix that, but it hits it right. And this is, again, as a result of training ChatGPT, bringing that over here into Claude and getting different copy. And again, I can give it more specific position prompting, but this is just constantly just leveraging, taking one collaboration between me and AI and another one, and collaborative between two different chatbots. The first sentence and the attention is good. It's one run on sentence, though, or two sentences, one run on and one short. Make that first sentence broken up or a little less wordy, conveying the same message. Okay, that works. Now regenerate the full script. Right. And so we're now getting into effective copy. And we can prompt it to where to flesh it out. If we want to get a long form piece, I don't want a long form piece. If you're constantly relying on long form pieces and thinking that you need them to make a full value proposition, that's not true. You're wrong. Do more research, see what's working on all the platforms. And also, from a first person perspective, there's a lot more that we can talk about to bring the story alive for particular archetypes. But this is just an idea of how to script from that ACT method perspective. Let me know your questions in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going.